Welcome everyone to episode 54 of Endless Conversation Loop. My name is Brandon. Today is March 26th, 2026. Hey, 226s. Wow. I am joined here by my absolutely exhausted co-host.
I'm so tired. This is Boom, your Baja blasphemer for the day.
This has been a recurring theme the last few podcasts, is that you've been absolutely exhausted. And it's because of another recurring theme, which is your new commentating gig.
Yeah, I've been commentating at our bi-weekly fighting game thing that we have in our area, where basically I'm doing the 2XKO commentary. Last night in particular was kind of weird because, so one of the players that we have, he's a self-proclaimed Blitzcrank main, but he does like, so in 2XKO there's like a thing where you can basically change out how your like tag partner, because it's a tag fighter game, and he does one called Juggernaut, which is instead of having a partner that you can tag in and out, you will have all of their stats basically added into your main fighter. So for him, he puts Blitzcrank as his main fighter, and then he takes Braum, who's one of the other bigger like characters for the game that's also very tanky, and all of those stats go into Blitz, and then all he does is primarily command grab, and that's it. I kid you not.
Wow.
I was counting in the fights that Flam would do, where he would just keep command grabbing. I lost count at about 27, and that was only in the handful of matches I commentated. I kind of want to guess like how many he did through the entire tourney, because I didn't do a few of the early round games last night. But I'm willing to bet he command grabbed probably like 80 times or something to that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's a 6-player tournament with losers bracket. So there was a lot of attempts. And what made it even funnier is the guy who ended up winning last night, at one point in the winners bracket when he was going against Flam, he went Juggernaut Braum, where they put Blitz's stats into Braum, and then proceeded to just have a Juggernaut fight the entire match, and he still won. And I'm like, what am I watching right now? It's just so insane that this is the kind of... This is only like my third week commentating, and this is the crap that I've been finding out. Is like, we're just going to have fun just for kicks. But it's been fun, though, I will be honest. It's one of those games where, like, I do play, like, extremely casually, but, like, I really like the atmosphere, like, the fighting game scene has of it. That said, I do need to still practice a lot better, because, like, my biggest issue as a commentator is, like, whenever I'm paired up with someone, it's like, they know what the buttons all are in terms of, like, what a fighting game is. I have no idea. I know them by their league names, essentially. It feels like I'm calling the fighting moves by their government name. And it's such a weird...
You're using their Christian name.
Yeah, quite literally. But, no, it's been a lot of fun, though. Like, we have another one I know next week, because we had a blizzard up here not that long ago, last week, and the roads were so bad that most of the people who would usually come couldn't. So they pushed the last week's to this current week, so from yesterday. And then next week, we're back on schedule with our normal every 2 weeks. And then on top of that, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we actually have Springs Edge, which is our like regional fighting game thing, and they're going to be doing that at a Green Bay Distillery up here, and we're expecting, I think, about 100 people for this on that Saturday.
Now, I don't mean to downplay the size of these other tournaments, but I feel like that's a little bit closer to a legit tournament than a bracket of 6.
Well, so you got to keep in mind is, like, we have about 20 people who show up for, like, these bi-weeklies, give or take. But the issue is, it's like, not everyone can always make it for the events, and they all don't play these games. Because on average, we play about 4 fighting games for our, like, bi-weeklies. We have Guilty Gear Strive, we have Street Fighter 6, we have Tekken 8, and we have 2XKO, which basically just became, like, our quote-unquote official 4th game. And we also have a separate event that one of the other guys is just starting that's doing, like, some of the old school Soul Calibers. So, but he's doing that, like, on Thursdays, like every other Thursday or whatever it is. But the big thing that kind of comes out of it is it's like, we have like a decent turnout that's consistent. It's I think part of the problem is like despite like Green Bay being a big city, it does not have a big scene. So we have a lot of these people who come out from like, maybe Appleton or even further, like north or south from us. So I think the problem is like with comparing it to like, with Spring's Edge, where it's like, oh, we're expecting like 100 people. Because I think we did Autumn's Edge in, I think it was September, and we had about, I think it was like 80 people for that. So there's more planning into those events, but they're also on weekends versus a Wednesday night. That's where I think the biggest disconnect is on that, because it's like people are going to be busy, during the weekday more likely than they are on a weekend, and especially with like these weekend ones that we do once every 6 months, there's a lot more time to plan. So I don't know what the plan is in terms of like after it, because I think this is a new venue. I don't know how many times they've done it at the Green Bay Distillery, but it is a bigger area than where we usually hold our event, which is like at a VR arcade that's on the west side.
Right. They're not exactly comparable events. I just think like when I think of, the title of a tournament, I think of something that's a little bit bigger, where it's like almost what you're doing is almost closer to like, sort of like a bi-weekly, well, appropriately enough, considering the game that you're running, it's closer to like a league, right?
Yeah, and I think it'd be something, I might have to run it by the organizers and kind of see if maybe there's a thing that we do, like maybe give it a little bit more life in a way. Like it's not saying like they don't have like life, but it's like instead of like a tournament maybe for a few weeks, they do more of like a quote unquote season. You know what I mean? Kind of like put standings in where you're like someone wins like this many matches or this many like rounds or whatever it is.
Well, right. And see, I've always wanted something like that just in general for games, because, I think it's definitely not the case anymore that like, oh, gaming is such a solitary, you only ever do it on your own. But it would be nice if there were more opportunities in the real world, so to speak, to get out and play stuff with others. And I think like you said, a season, or because I mean it's basically the same thing in my mind as like what you would do for a bowling league, where it's every week or every 2 weeks, and yeah, you have a season out of it, and that's what you compete for. But it's not just that it's not just for competition, it's also like a social thing to get people together. So yeah, you'd probably have your really super duper serious competitors, but then you'd also have your people who are like, oh, I like Street Fighter. I remember playing Street Fighter 2 in the 90s, and that would be fun to like get together and meet people who are doing the new one, right? So I think that'd be a good thing as just like as like a bigger picture thing.
Yeah, and something that I do like that we do at our events like every couple weeks is we'll have like a different side bracket for like a very obscure fighting game. So like I forget what the name of it is. All I remember is that like I saw people fighting as a race car from like, it was something on the Sega Saturn, I think, or Sega.
Was it Fighters Mega Mix?
It might have been that. I might be wrong. I can't remember the exact name. All I remember is that it was featuring a race car that was a fighting game character, and what I assumed is a like bear parade float was also a fighting character. I was very confused by it, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but definitely had my attention for a hot second when I saw the parade float and the car fighting.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because Fighters Mega Mix has Bark the Polar Bear from Sonic the Fighters, and the Hornet, as in the car from Daytona, USA.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But no, like, it's really cool that they do bring, like, some of the more obscure games that, like, they definitely don't have, like, a following. Like, they'll have, like, a small side bracket that really doesn't mean too much. But it's still nice to, like, kind of, in a way respect some of the obscure elders of the fighting game scene in a way, with, like, games that you would never see in, I think, a normal setting for a tournament.
What the kids don't remember. That's right.
Or the kids are that much younger than said game.
All right, well, we do have a main topic today, but we have a couple of littler, tinier things following up on some threads that we've had in previous episodes that I'd want to cover here. So, first off, we have some breaking news this morning.
This morning?
Yes. Fox McCloud is in the Super Mario Galaxy movie.
Oh my god, you're kidding me. No. Really?
I am dead serious. There is a poster for it.
Hold on. I don't believe you. Hang on.
You don't believe me. I am not joshing you here. I am telling you the truth.
You have got to be kidding me.
Okay, so if you're keeping score at home, that means, okay, just bear with me here. In the Gateway Galaxy, your guide to all the other galaxies, as they talk about in the trailers, the main staff member at the counter there is Rob, as in the robotic operating buddy. Fox McCloud is going to be in the movie somehow. And what is going to elevate the movie to an 11 out of 10 specifically for me, there was like a mini Instagram trailer, it was either last week or a couple weeks ago, at the very least making some kind of cameo, because I can't imagine there's going to be a real plot reason for this. There will be Pikmin in the movie.
Well, I knew there was Pikmin because I saw that. I think this is almost like, I don't want to jinx it, but this is almost kind of leaning toward we may be getting a giant Nintendo universe, maybe. Like, which could very well lead into maybe even, dare I say, a Smash Bros. Potential movie.
You know, poor Masahiro Sakurai just got done going back to his son, going back to Kirby for a little bit. And he's probably going to be thrust next into whatever Smash Brothers for Switch 2 is going to be. I don't know that he can handle a feature film on top of it.
So, this is kind of where my take is on this. One, I'm going to point this out right away. Fox looks dope as hell. Like, I love this design full stop. Like, I hope to God this might also be them kind of like testing the waters and like, is there enough interest that we want to see Star Fox again in some capacity? Whether it's a movie, whether it's a game, whatever it might be. But I will be honest, he looks dope in this poster from what I'm seeing.
I do really like the design, I agree.
It feels very like, I don't know how to best explain it. It feels like the classic outfit, but still modern enough that it feels different. Like, it's the same kind of like color scheme for sure. I do need to know, is that the blaster on his hip though? Because like the way that it's at the angle, it looks like a lightsaber handle. Like, I'm sure it's the blaster, but I just really thrown off because it does not look like a pistol. It looks like a sword.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be the blaster, because if you remember back to like when we discussed this a couple episodes ago, and you're like, people are saying they think Fox is going to be in the movie, and the evidence was like on the very far left side of the frame. There you could see the handle on the blaster, so
yeah,
it should be the gun.
I wonder if we're going to get small cameos of like Slippy and Falco and Pepe and all them.
I'm sure they're going to at least be mentioned, but like, I think people are, because again, also, what did I say a few weeks ago? I think this, especially now that there is also, even if it is just like background, like gag cameos in some way, now that there's also for sure Pikmin in it, we might be bloating the movie, especially since it's still only got like a 90-minute runtime like the first one. And the first movie like goes at a breakneck pace. There's really no slow moments in that one. So I definitely, like, I'm still going to see it. Like, I'm sure it's going to be a perfectly fine movie.
We are going to see it.
But, no, I know. But I do think this is going to be, like, danger of overflowing the movie a little bit. But we'll have to see.
I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, like, there's going to be more of, like, a, hey, this galaxy is very, very much bigger than you anticipated. But it'll probably be, like, maybe, like, 5-10 minutes of the movie.
I don't know. I'm just saying we got to put in the plot about Bowser Jr. gets Bowser back, and, you know, we got to find Yoshi, and Rosalina has to fit in some way, And now, at least because he has a poster, we can assume Fox is going to be at least, within a minor character role, maybe like a like a Toad or a Luigi in the first movie, but still he's got to be there enough to justify having a poster and all that stuff. So
hang on, so I want to look up something quick.
I don't know. I'm just worried that this is going to end up really making oh my goodness, could we have put 10 or 20 more minutes on the movie to actually have some good pacing here.
I wonder if there'll be a brief Samus cameo somewhere in the background too.
I could see Samus flying around somewhere. I could see that. I don't know that we've seen any evidence of that yet, but oh my goodness. This is just getting ridiculous.
So, for those keeping score at home on the possibility of a Smash Bros. Movie, I want to point out, of the, 82 characters that we got for Smash Ultimate, there are currently now 11 characters in this movie, or between the two movies. So we are already over an eighth of the way there. Because right now,
oh my goodness,
basically at some point have shown an appearance. We have Mario, we have Donkey Kong, we have Yoshi confirmed, we have Fox confirmed now, Luigi, Peach, 6, Bowser. We have the Pikmin,
Bowser
which
Jr.
I'm going to count as one. We have Diddy Kong, which did make a cameo in the first movie. We have Rob, and then we have Bowser Jr. So yeah, that's 11.
12 because we have to add on Rosalina too.
I forgot Rosalina. That's 12. So hold on, what is the percentage of that? Let me look.
Depending on how you want to count Toad too, because Toad is part of.
I'm talking playable
moveset.
fighters, so Toad would not count that.
Okay, Toad is just barely on the outskirts. He does not count. The point here though is, this is a lot going on.
The point is that is almost 15% of the roster is in the two movies.
That is bonkers.
Yeah. Now. Oh, wait, hold on. It might actually be more than that, because...
It might be 13 or more? How could it possibly be 13 or more?
Well, you have to understand, there is one character that I completely forgot, and that was Piranha Plant was a playable character.
That's true.
So yeah, so that is
a good point.
13 characters, which gives us about 16% of the roster is in the two Super Mario Bros. Movies.
That is crazy.
No, crazy would be if all of a sudden we're getting some of the more obscure DLC fighters showing up in the movie, and it's just what do you mean that Sephiroth is making an appearance? Or Kazuya from Tekken?
That would probably be a rights nightmare.
Maybe. I don't know. I wonder if it's something different for movies, because I know it's a rights nightmare for Spider-Man, because Sony owns movie rights but not comic rights per se. That's a whole other thing though, but I don't have the time or the tequila to get into that. So
start looking into the deep past of the Mushroom Kingdom, and it turns out that's just Fire Emblem that happened back in the day.
Watch, Fire Emblem is just actually going to be its own mini series that we're going to get on Amazon or something.
Yeah, that would at least be a little bit more sensible. So
I could see that being kind of almost like a la, not quite a Game of Thrones style of show, but would definitely be in that more episodic, I think, feeling. But I think you'd have to go with if you're doing a Fire Emblem show, you definitely would have to start with the OG with Marth and all them, because I know they're standalone stories for the most part, but it doesn't feel right if you don't start from the beginning of Fire Emblem with it.
I think you treat it something kind of like how Netflix did Castlevania, right? Because they started with Castlevania 3. So, and I know that isn't necessarily the earliest point in the series, but it is a very iconic game. But I think it works out, right, that the original Fire Emblem is the first one, and it's got this iconic character in Marth, so you could do well doing the first one as your first, movie or series for that.
You must be a Belmont.
Turning now to something else that we've been following, I want to make it clear first, too. I did not plan this to be a very hyper Nintendo-focused podcast today, but we just keep getting news that happens to be relevant to them that we've been following. So I'm just like, okay, I gotta talk about this. So literally the day after we recorded episode 53, we got an update on Nintendo's lawsuit with the United States government, which is that their lawsuit is automatically paused, or, well, like if you want to use a legal term, it's stayed, which is basically just because of like some other ruling before they even filed this, saying at the Court of International Trade, saying that all these cases would be paused pending the results of the case that made it to the Supreme Court. Of course, we have that ruling, so that's the one piece that I'm not quite understanding here, is like, I don't get how this case is paused because we have the ruling. So clearly there's like something that, like, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not understanding here. And a reminder, none of this is legal advice.
We're beyond unqualified to give legal advice.
The best I've done is I took one pseudo legal writing class in college, and that's about all I have. So don't listen to me for any legal advice. There's a long story there. It's the way the class was framed. Like when I read it, I thought it was more about like how laws are written, so I was interested in that. But it turned out to be more about like actual legal cases. Like basically it was like a pre-law class if you wanted to do it.
Oh.
But it counted for my degree, so I mean, it's all that mattered. It was literally like one of the last classes I took in college. Anyway, continuing on here from GameFile, they also mentioned 2 days before the lawsuit was filed, a judge in the trade court ruled companies impacted by tariffs should receive refunds. So I would assume that is based on the Supreme Court ruling. And they could be issued starting in April. But as Stephen Totillo of GameFile notes very well here, also like we talked about last time, a Nintendo rep did not directly say whether the company planned to pass refunds along to its consumers when asked about it by GameFile. So, yeah, we're still kind of in the same place, but technically the lawsuit is on hold. But I don't quite get how it gets there, but that's what it is. Anything to add there, or?
Not really. If there's much to really talk about, I don't really see too much, but it's just a lot.
I think we covered most of like what would have been important last time. And the last thing, so also last in episode 53, we talked about game prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a new update on Switch 2 game pricing, which is that we're now going to have our first game coming in May, where Nintendo will start pricing physical games differently from digital games.
Oh.
So the new Yoshi game, this Yoshi and the Mysterious Book game, which, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a great game. Man, I do not like that game title. It will be selling digitally for $60. It will be selling physically for $70. I think we've seen stuff like this before, but not on like a full wide, certainly not on a first party publishing scale like this. And I don't fully know what to think about it yet, because there's like the bigger picture thing, like the bigger picture way to look at it. And it's like positives and negatives, and as with everything in life, it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But like, obviously, this sounds new to you. So like, first reaction, what are your thoughts on this?
It's nice that they're understanding like physical and digital to an extent are different types of games when it comes to like paying and all that jazz. I think the only thing I worry about it is hey, we're going to have physical games cost more because of all the extra, stuff that goes into it. Like, it makes sense for digital games to be cheaper, but I don't want this to also have, an increase to physical demand. And then using that as an excuse to, well, people aren't buying physical. It's like, yeah, because you made it so goddamn expensive to have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, like, $10 isn't, like, a huge gap. But the other, like, this is why it's so complicated, is because like you could frame this as, okay, we're making games cheaper, and therefore like, okay, that's good because people don't want to pay as much for games, right? And so, but the way to get a cheaper game is to download it. But you could also frame it, like I distinctly remember seeing yesterday a video from these folks that I've mentioned before from Good Vibes Gaming about, well, physical games are getting more expensive, which is a totally other legitimate way to look at it. Because, you know, if the game's value is $60 based on what the digital price is, why is it being sold physically for $70? But then you get to your point too of like, okay, well then there's the cost of like, we got to manufacture the cartridge, and we got to make the case, we got to print out the art, which I mean I'm sure isn't that expensive in the grand scheme of things, but it's all part of it. Got to ship it out to the store. But then the last piece I start thinking about with this is, I don't know fully that this is going to totally work in the way Nintendo wants it to, because you can also buy cards at the store for games. So like I could go to the store right now if I wanted to do this for some silly reason instead of just downloading it here at home, and I could go, you know, buy a card for the game that I want to download. So that means at your retailer, whichever one you go to, there will be a $70 copy of Yoshi and the Mysterious Book on the shelf for $70, but then there will also be cards for it for $60 on the rack. So then I start wondering about, okay, are the stores then going to be like, well, we don't, like, obviously we're not going to sell the digital copy or the physical copy for $10 more. No one's going to want to buy that when there's a perfectly good digital copy on the rack that's $10 less. So is this going to backfire, and then instead of following the $70 MSRP, is that going to make stores be like, no, we're going to sell this at $60 because we want to sell out of these copies? I'm not saying that's going to happen, just to be clear, but it is a thought that crossed my mind, is like, okay, maybe this doesn't work the way they want it to. Another thought with it is, okay, well then let's say the opposite happens and stores insist, okay, no, we have to keep it at $70. Well, then what's likely, or at least possible to happen, is since digital sales are so much bigger now, people might wise up to that, and then the physical copies just sit on the shelf, and then they'd have to start being clearanced out, and then you can get them at a cheaper price compared to even the digital copy if you're waiting on it. Again, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but that's certainly another possibility to look at here. So, you know, the whole thing is complicated. I think I'm trying to come up with like what I would say is like my definitive opinion on it, but it's just like, I think it makes sense in that there literally are more costs in a physical game, and I think it is fair to reflect that. And if anything, it is just nice for like the folks who like digital just to like not have to have that cost reflected for them. But I also, of course, as somebody who likes actually being able to put his game on the shelf, then certainly see this too is like, okay, well now we're definitely getting closer to that's not going to happen anymore. And I mean, that's sort of inevitable anyway, but you know, it's a sad thing, I think, across the board. But you know, in the long run, we're going to have to see how this plays out, because whether it ends up being that this backfires and these games don't sell as well, then maybe the policy goes back and it's like, okay, we're going to leave these at the same price. Or maybe it's going to be that, you know, that stores sell them for cheaper anyway, and so Nintendo's like, okay, well, if they're just going to do that, we'll just make both versions the same price. Or it could be that this works out and it ends up being fine. Like, we don't know yet. There's still time until this comes out, but obviously there's good reason to be thinking about why this is happening and what could happen as a result.
Honestly, I think it's one of those, until we see like what their intentions are outside of like how it's been talked about, it's really hard to really like, we have a lot of these types of topics, obviously, so like we're never going to fully know until it's actually already in. And that's sometimes a good and a bad thing, because it's like good sometimes because like sometimes they're proven wrong and that's fine. But then it's bad because it's like if it starts happening this way and now they're doing this, you know, the way that we were, say, worrying about, well, now we look like fools in a way where we're just kind of sitting there like watching them basically try to nickel and dime in some convoluted way or something like that.
Well, right. It's like that's the problem, is we don't want to be like, oh, the sky is falling, the world is ending. But also, you know, you have to acknowledge that, well, there could be some issues. And that's something that has to be considered, right? So, but like you said, it's hard to tell what's going to happen until we see this happen in the real world.
You don't want to like necessarily like, you don't want to like say that like the sky is falling or something like that, but you want to like have healthy skepticism, if that makes sense.
So kind of a perfect case in point here. I'm looking this up because I just typed into Google like physical games priced differently than digital, because I wanted to see like some examples from the past, because I'm sure that like obviously, like I said, this is the first time that it's like a broader policy, but this isn't like this has happened before with like individual games, and I wanted to see like how these have worked. So like in the what people are saying section on Google, you've got 22 hours ago from Dreamcast guy, which is, he's an interesting personality. I don't know how to describe him necessarily. Actually, not. I do kind of have a line. It kind of goes back to what I talked about with like leaks, that episode last year, where it's like also with this with things like this, don't just listen to people who are like, oh, everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time, but also don't listen to people who are always like, everything's going to be terrible and sucky and blah, 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 blah. And I tend to think, you know, he does like some clickbaity video titles. So like this one is Nintendo raises physical game prices. And then it has like in yellow big bold text, $90 games, when Yoshi is going to be $70. And that doesn't mean there won't be $90 games at some point. Like that could happen. But then directly to the right of it is a Reddit post referring to a clarification that Nintendo made to IGN in an article that's saying the cost of physical games isn't going up. So like they're framing this more as we're making digital games cheaper. But also, like I said, I mean, definitionally, the cost of physical games is going up. If you're saying the value of this game, just the game, is $70, even if we account for the whole, like, well, there's the production, the cost of the physical stuff, and shipping it to places, like, you know, there's reason to look at it as, like, these are going up, but this isn't necessarily the same, like, the sky is falling, and, like, everything is going to hell. Like, that's not realistic to think yet. You know, maybe in a couple months we'll look at this and we'll have good reason to say that, but it's way too early now to think that. Okay, so we've gone on a lot of very depressing stuff.
And it's only been 40 minutes.
I know. So let's finally get into the main topic today. I'm getting to take the lead today again.
Yay.
For the first time in a little bit.
That's less thinking for me.
Yes. Well, you know, I'd let you do that for a little bit because I had a bunch of leads in a row, so I figured it was only fair to let you have a couple leads. I wanted to talk about today games we wish we could still play online. So, like, these are games that, you know, maybe the individual services for that game just don't exist anymore, or maybe platform-wide online doesn't exist for it anymore, which obviously right now only really exists for one, but soon that will be the case. Unless it is, I might be misremembering, but like I know the Xbox 360 games are finally, like the actual original consoles are going to stop having its online work soon, or it's like happened in recent history.
God, I feel old hearing that.
Well, I know. And same thing with the PS3. That's got to be happening very soon if it hasn't happened already. But like the Wii and the Wii U and 3DS and the original DS have been offline for a long time now. And the game that got me thinking about this is, man, I just want to play some Fortune Street online. So, I'm sure I've talked about the game on this show before, but if you need a crash course in what Fortune Street is, a lot of the time people talk about it, you'll hear people be like, well, it's like if you mixed Monopoly and Mario Party, which I think is a very surface level reading of the game, because it's like, okay, yes, it's a digital board game like Mario Party that happens to include Mario characters in the cast, and yes, it's a game like a board game about money like Monopoly, but that does not mean the games are actually that's similar in terms of how they play. So, like, what you actually do in Fortune Street, like in Monopoly, your goal is to bankrupt everyone else. In Fortune Street, you have a specific, like, target net worth you're supposed to reach, which I know sounds super duper exciting, but bear with me. Basically, you go around and like you buy properties and you put money into them and you try to increase your value, and you can invest stock in them to increase the property's value to like hit that amount and eventually get back to the starting space, and that's how you win the game. You can get promotions by collecting 4 suits around the board, and that'll get you like a quick influx of money all at once. Obviously a big piece of it is having other players land on your properties and having to pay like some obscene amount of gold to you. If you've invested in districts, whether it's the one that you have your shops in or ones where your opponent's shops are in, you can basically get a cut of some money. So like, if let's say you have 100 stocks in this other district that your opponent has like this really expensive shop in, they had to get paid 2,000 gold from someone else landing on their shop. Well, you still can get 200 gold without having had to do anything because you invested money in that district, right? So it's all about like figuring out how to reach that target amount the fastest is like the long and short of it. And the game came out in 2011, December 2011. So we are talking about like
15 years.
15 years ago. But I'm thinking more like this is way late in the game for the original Wii, because less than 12 months later, you finally get the roaring flop that is the Wii U. I mean, and then the Wi-Fi connection for the Wii and the 3DS ended, or not 3DS, the Wii and the DS ended 3 years later, so there's barely any time to play it online. And since it's a late release Wii game, it's like, okay, well, how many people are buying new Wii games in 2011 after people have already been like, okay, I've had my fill of the Wii, and specifically a game that is a digital board game with Mario and Dragon Quest characters in it. Not a lot, right? So even back when it was new and it was playable online, wasn't exactly, the same super filled up scene that a game like Mario Kart Wii had. But given that it's supposed to be a competitive game, it'd just be more fun to play with people. And I mean, if it's hard to find other people who own the game to play online with in that same kind of way, imagine how hard it is to try to get 3 other actual people into your home to want to play that game. So
It's
I don't
like
know. I've been having.
It's like trying to get a full party of Dokapon Kingdom on the OG Wii.
Yep. Or even with the Reconnect version on the Switch. Like, okay, it's not impossible, but it's not easy. So
There's got to be a lot of convincing for it, for sure.
Well, and I mean, it's not as intense as Dokapon Kingdom, because that is a game that can literally take months to finish if you do it if you play it once a week.
I
This is at least
would love to play this with you at some point, just for clarification, because like the way you talk about Fortune Street, it makes me want to like play that at some point just to try it, because I've never played it before myself. And then on top of that, I'm like, I would kill to have us play Dokkan Kingdom, just because I've seen like gameplay of it, and it gets so like heated so fast, and I'm like, this may ruin the show.
Nah, see, Fortune Street isn't quite that intense, and the nice thing is, even if you set some crazy target amount, I think the highest target amount in the game is like 25,000 gold on like the super complicated boards, and you can set that higher. You can set that to like, you can make it 85,000 if you just want to have a really, really, really long game, but you can get a game done in a couple hours, and it also helps that like another one of the win conditions. So technically, one of the ways it is similar to Monopoly, you can also win by bankrupting the other players. So there is a setting that like after one player goes bankrupt, then the player who has the most value at that point is automatically declared the winner. But you can also set it up so that, everyone has to go bankrupt in order for that to have officially become the win condition too. But obviously it's a little bit more fun actually trying to get to the target amount and win the game the proper way. So, but yeah, that's been on my mind, because it's like, I like the game and playing with the CPUs is fine, but it'd be more fun to play with like other human beings, because people aren't as predictable as the CPU, even when it's at the highest level. And also it feels more fun to get screwed over by another human being through random chance than it does by the computer, to just, God, they just keep avoiding that expensive property of mine.
I think the one that I still think is hilarious is like, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but like, I assume you don't really watch a lot of Smosh like games content or any of that or stuff, really.
No, but they were a big deal back in the day.
So, well, funny enough, there's like they've been kind of like in a renaissance almost lately. Like I've been watching a lot of their stuff as of late, and one of the episodes that I saw on their Smosh Games thing is they did an episode of that Lego Mario Party. I forget Lego Party or whatever it is.
It is literally just Lego Party, and I really want to get it
and
myself.
I'll have to send you that playthrough, because that game got so heated so fast, and I'm like, this was the best thing I could have watched all day. But like, that's the kind of energy that I always love with those multiplayer games. Like, it's still on my list to try to put together this, but I don't know when it's going to happen. But I want to do a Mario Party decathlon, where it's like one game from each Mario Party from 1 through 10, and then just see who wins by the end of it.
That'd be something else.
Like, you wouldn't do it all in one sitting. It'd be like almost like a, kind of like how like the NFL season is, where it's like a once a week thing, and then you just, come back after you've recouped a little bit, and then come back and do the next one. And then like, I haven't decided if I want to do it as more of like a point system, where it's like based off of where you finish in the game. Like, then you get like points, like say 4 points for first place, 3 for second, and so on. But then at the same time, I'm wondering, it's like, oh, well, what if you did it as a collective stars and coins thing, where like after 10 weeks, it's like, yeah, you won the map, but it's like, say if like on week 1 you got only 2 stars and you won, but you like on say Mario Party 4 you had 5 stars and still lost, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of like very nitty-gritty details I would have to still finish to get all situated before I even attempt to find 3 other people sadistic enough to do this with me. But I really want to do this at some point, just so like I could make something up with, an excuse to play every Mario Party basically.
Yeah, that could be fun. Okay, well, we've gotten mine. What is a game that you can't play online anymore that you would love to have back?
See, this is the problem with that question, is like I kind of sat and thought on it a lot, and like a lot of my problem is like I never really had a lot of online games that I was like I had to go play. You know what I mean? Like, I was the Nintendo kid for the longest time growing up, and I didn't start playing online multiplayer until like probably college, if I'm being honest. But the only ones that I could really think of offhand that was like I would kill to get back into this was like Splatoon, weirdly enough. Like the OG Splatoon.
Really?
I had a phase where I was playing Splatoon online for a while when it came out, and like I genuinely loved it because it wasn't like I felt like I would have to win every game. It was just one of those games where I was like really enjoying just the. It felt like, you know, like when you go to a paintball game and you just kind of are there just to participate and you're gonna have fun either way. Like you're still trying to win and whatnot, but like that's not the main goal at that point. It's like I'm gonna get to hit people with paint, and then Splatoon basically amplified that by like 50. When you're having like all these like powers, all these weird weapons, like it's just a cool idea in general. And like I genuinely think I had more fun with Splatoon online that like first few months that I was playing it than I think in all my games of like Valorant or League of Legends, where it was like I just felt miserable at certain points. Splatoon, I never had that feeling, but I also only played it for a handful of months versus like some people who are probably playing it online for like years now between the three games. But like OG Splatoon like was like such a Wild West, I feel like, where it was like something new from Nintendo, and it was like an online, basically like was kind of the big selling point for it. Like yeah, there was story stuff, but it wasn't like the prevalent thing. Like you wanted to play online paintball essentially, and like everyone really enjoyed it. Like, and my buddy Bane, he actually was a very big Splatoon fan for the longest time. I think he still is, but like he was like just so invested in it too. So like he kind of got that bug in me too when I was like kind of interested in the game. He kind of convinced me to start playing online a little bit, and I was really enjoying a lot of it.
So did you end up playing 2 or 3 after that?
No, I actually didn't, because like it was one of those things where like I think I owned only the first one so far, and like it's been on my radar to get at least 2 and 3, because like I know 3 still has like some online like going on right now, but like 2 I know got shut off weirdly quick too.
2 is still on. The only
is it?
one you can't play online is the first one, because you can't play anything on the Wii U online unless you do like the Pretendo stuff. But the thing with 2 is that it's, you know, it's basically obsolete for a lot of people because they're going to be like, well, why wouldn't I just play 3? And then you've got me, who's the staunch like, why did they release a third one, the second game of the same series
On the same
where it's all
system.
multiplayer on the same system? Like, this isn't like Mario Party, right? There are 4 Mario Parties on the GameCube, but that's fine because they all have different boards and different mini games and different characters. This is like basically the same game. I mean, there's new maps and, you know, new stuff, but like it doesn't have the same kind of like, because it does bring back things from 2. And it's like, well, why? Then why wouldn't I don't know. That was a whole thing on this podcast in an episode when that was announced, and I'm just like, I don't get it. It was ridiculous. But I mean, I own the game now because I was like, I will only get it if it's half price or less, and I got it for $30. I still haven't even played it.
Yeah. Like, it's been on my radar to get at some point. It's just I haven't bothered to do it since, like, I haven't really had that Splatoon itch in a while. But, like, I don't know. Just something about the first online. It was like, I think it's because it was new. It was different. That it got a lot of people hype. So, like, I can't really blame them. So, like, kind of getting, like, to do that again. Because I think there's something to say about how, like, when it was first coming out, like, everyone was kind of stoked on it. And it's like, it was like a kid-friendly COD. And now I don't have to have 8-year-olds screaming slurs at me on Xbox Live.
Right. Well, that's a good pick. Was not expecting that, but I could see that, like why you would think that. A second one that's on my list, I'll go with this one because it also has a very colorful theme. And get ready, I'm going to highlight an indie game. I'm going with Runbow.
Oh.
Have you heard of Runbow before?
I've heard of it. I have never played it yet.
Okay, so this is a game where it's basically a race to get to the end of like a level, like, you know, sort of like a Super Mario Brothers type level, right? And you can play with up to 9 people, if I recall correctly. And the whole idea of the game is there are, like, your main platforms are all in black, but your other platforms are in, 4 different colors. So maybe like yellow, blue, orange, green. But the background changes into those colors. So when the background is red, you cannot see or interact with any of the red platforms. They don't exist anymore because they become part of the background. So, and you also need to like stay ahead because basically every level is an auto scroller, which I'm sure for some would be annoying, but obviously that's part of how they keep it being a race, is that you have to get to the end.
Forward.
Right. And so the only problem with my selection of this is, I mean, it is still playable online, but the problem is the only version I have is the Wii U version, which is not playable online anymore. So, like, if I went ahead and I downloaded a new copy, it would be fine. But, I just can't play it online right now. So I'm cheating a little bit in this choice, but it still would be neat to play that online, especially because it actually was, again, for an independent game, first released on the Wii U, a more active than not online game. And I will also say another like cool thing about that version in particular is they have some ridiculous ways to let you do 8 local players, because you can have somebody, for example, playing on like a Wii remote on its side, but then you can have another person who's playing, but their controller is a nunchuck connected to that controller that someone else is playing on, and it still works.
It's kind of impressive, honestly.
I think it is impressive and hilarious that they were somehow able to figure out a way to make like player 4 is the nunchuck and player 5 is the Wii remote. it's just that alone is very amusing. I've never done it, but like just the thought of like 8 people together and a bunch of them are daisy chained controllers together, that I think is funny. But yeah, just a very simple little fun game. And, if you're in the kind of situation where I'm in, where, we're adults now, we're busy, we can't just get together all the time to like play video games. Mm-hmm. And so some of those like slightly more obscure ones sort of fall to the wayside, like in the event that you do get to do a multiplayer thing, because, you'll have people be more like, well, I want to play Mario Kart. I want to play, to your point, I want to play COD. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. Certainly we can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but like, there's this sea of all these other games out here that are great for multiplayer that like you gotta hope that you can play them online, and that's just not one that I can do that with anymore.
Yeah, there's definitely like, I feel like there's a lot of games out there where it's one of those, there's something good about what it was, but it came out at the wrong time. You know what I mean?
See, I think it came out at the right time because it was pretty popular for what it was. It's just, it isn't still a thing anymore because, well, people have moved on. Time marches forward, right? People don't think about a game from 2014 anymore unless it was like the game of 2014. And that's okay. So do you not have any others to contribute here? Because if you don't, then I will add one more to my list here, and then I think we will call it a day.
So I'm trying to think, because like I'm going back thinking about like some of my stuff like back in like my college days specifically, because that's when I started getting really into online gaming. But my problem was that even when I wasn't online gaming, I wasn't in a lot of it. Like, and it's not a dig at anyone who's like, oh yeah, like, if you enjoy it, it's like you suck. It's like, no, that's not what I mean by in the slightest. Like, because the other problem is too is like some of the games that I played, it's like I think technically they're still online. It's just I haven't played them in so long. Like, I made fun of COD earlier, but like COD Black Ops 3 was another one that was really like on my radar for the longest time, but that was like PS4, which I think the online is still available. And that's like really the only other one that I can think of besides like very obscure like fighting games that I was playing here and there. Like when Injustice 1 and 2 came out, like I would play online for those every once in a while. Like, but I have since basically kind of fallen out of those. Like that's kind of where my problem is. It's like I feel like there's a lot of those games too where like the online like features aren't really a thing that was like the big focal point, but they're games that we still talk about. Like The Last of Us multiplayer, for example. Like that was a thing. That's not why we're playing it though.
You mean that is the selling point of this this third-person cinematic action game is the multiplayer? What? I am shocked.
Yeah, because so many of those, like, that era of, like, PS3, 360, where it was, like, you would have, like, this really big release that came out, like, whether it's Last of Us or Uncharted or something like that, and then they're just tacking on these multiplayers. Like, I'm just like, why do you need that, though? Like, that's not a thing that needs to be part of this franchise. And I think it was just because, like, that was the fad for the longest time.
Well, it's also a great way to get people to subscribe to your online service and make some money off of it, too.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't really have a huge amount of, like, things that I can think of that would, like, fall in that category. Splatoon was honestly the biggest one.
Are there any games you can think of that, like, didn't have an online mode, but it had multiplayer that maybe you would have had the opportunity to play multiplayer more if it was online capable?
Oh, that's a whole other question there. I mean, I think something I would love to have seen more of is like... Now, mind you, this is a thing that does not exist, but I would have loved to have, like, especially in, like, that 3DS era, a Pokemon game that let you, like, explore with your friends on the same journey. You know what I mean? That would, I feel like, being cool.
So not just battling online, actually getting to, like, play the game.
Yeah.
So, sort of like an MMO.
To an extent, yeah, because it's like, you're still playing in the game, but it's like, I'm actually shocked now that I say it out loud. It's like, Pokemon hasn't found a way to do that. Where, like, I'm not saying it has to be like, oh, you gotta have, 7 people all on the same journey in one game file. It's like, no, I'm saying even just, like, 1 or 2 people that you bring into your playthrough with you. Like, just cause. But I wonder if that would be, like, too, like, intensive for, like, that type of game. Because, like, then you have, like, 3 different people who are all doing God knows what in the games. And, like, that could be very overbearing. But I'm kind of surprised, like, they haven't taken, like, a note out of the anime and just be like, hey, you and, like, 1 or 2 of your friends can join you on this Pokemon journey so you can all play together. But I don't know how that would begin to work because it's like you have all individual save files and, like, just there's so much convoluted stuff that I'm sure they would have to figure out if they wanted to even attempt that. And who knows, maybe Waves and Winds will somehow pull that off. I doubt it, but it would be interesting.
It's funny that you say this as an idea because one that I had on the list before I had to go back because I haven't played it yet, but I know it had online stuff, was Dragon Quest IX.
Okay.
And basically what you're describing is like the local play in Dragon Quest IX, because in that game, like, it had online stuff in that there were, like, new battles and bosses and stuff you could download, but the main gist of the game is, like, you can make a party, like, you can have your own party with CPU, well, I mean, also you can control them. Like, you can make your own other party members in the game. But what you really want to do is join up with your friends in the same room. And what they do for that, because there is still a story and, like, a main, like, campaign to finish in Dragon Quest IX, so then the thought, of course, becomes, to your point, okay, well, what do I do for my friend who's further along in the game than me? How do I get them to join me in this dungeon or on this quest that they already completed? And so what they do for that is there are special treasure chests that pop up in these places, like, for that player who's already finished it. So then the thought is, okay, now you have an incentive to help your friend along in their adventure in this earlier part of the game that you may have already finished. And I think that kind of similarly would work pretty well for Pokemon if you did something like, okay, well, I've already defeated, the gym in this area, okay, well, if you help your friend and help them beat that gym leader, now you can get like some sort of like temporary, like maybe you get an extra mini badge related to that, and that, I don't know, increases some stat on all the Pokemon of that type from the leader that you beat. I'm not saying that would work, but that's just an idea that I'm throwing
Yeah,
out.
because that's going to be kind of hard to do when it's like the games are very focused on like you going on a journey and getting these gym badges. And it's like, as cool as it would be to have your friends on there, I feel like you'd have to have a more open style of game, not one that's like get the gym badges, like almost kind of like as weird as this might sound, like Sun and Moon in a way. Like you're doing the trials, but like you could build them to be more multiplayer centric if you wanted to. Like cuz they weren't like directly like these gym battles per se, like they would eventually be that, but like there was always something ahead of it that you had to still do, like a prerequisite. So, I mean, it's not completely, I feel like, out of the realm of possibility. It's just you really have to figure out how to put it all together. And, like, that's where I think the hardest part is, especially when you have something like Pokemon that has been established in its, like, traditionalist way of playing for, like, going on 10 generations now. Because, like, even, like, the spin-off games, like, there's still kind of, like, a deviation to them, but the core is still there. Like, look at Legends Arceus. Like, you are going to still have to go after, like, these specific... I forget what they're called in the game. Like, those big glowing Pokemon that you'd have to run into, like Cleavor and all them. But, like, that still is, in a way, essentially a gym battle, because, like, that's the final boss, quote-unquote. So I don't know how you would like. I'm not saying it has to be a complete formulaic shift, but like it has to have something a little bit looser than what it has been. Like I don't know how you would do it though, but like I love the idea of like a Pokemon game that would be very like multiplayer centric on an exploration level. Like in a way almost like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Like everyone just takes a member of the team and then you just explore like an area or something. But not like the slow paced battle of like how that is. Like I love the Mystery Dungeon series, don't get me wrong. But the combat in that is much slower than I forget sometimes.
It's a different type of game too, and like Mystery Dungeon, like the interesting thing with that too is it's also its own entirely separate series, because you got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but then you've also got like I'm pretty sure there's like an Etrian Odyssey one, and there are, funny enough, tying these two things together again. There's a Dragon Quest Mystery Dungeons, like, you know, that's its own whole thing, and so then it's kind of like putting the trappings of whatever series they're crossing it over with on there, and I mean, it clearly it works out for all these different series. I did have an example of a game that never had online multiplayer that I would have liked online. You're going to notice a theme here, too, with a lot of these. It comes back a lot to games on the Wii, which makes sense, because that was, during when I grew up, the party console, right? So, randomly, of all the studios to do this, Disney put out a little game called Guilty Party. Have you heard of that at all?
Which one?
Guilty Party on the Wii.
I have not heard of this because the only like guilty game that I've heard outside of Gear is Guilty as Sock, which I still need to play because an online friend of mine bought a bunch of us the game and we have still never gotten together to play it.
Oh.
And I'm so mad about it because it's like it's essentially Ace Attorney but sock puppets.
Right.
And I'm like
you're all the people talking.
And like it's just chaos, and I'm like I'm absolutely for it, but we have never bothered to get around like to actually having everybody together for it yet still, or at least enough for like a decent game.
Yeah, that is not one that you can play with just two people, I'm sure.
Your Honor, my client is pleading nuh-uh.
The other side isn't here, so therefore you win. Yay!
No, the judge just isn't even there. It's just one dude in the gallery, like yay.
Can we go home now?
No, we got like a whole caseload. No.
Mm-hmm. So the basic gist of Guilty Party, again, I could be like Fortune Tree, be like, well, it's kind of like Clue in a way, and it's like, well, that's a very surface level reading of the game. Um, During your turn, you get like you're in different sort of building layouts. Like there is one that's a mansion, but there's also one that's like an aquarium. There's one that's an airship that you go around, and I can't remember what all the so-called crimes are in any of the stages, but something's happened, and there is a whole story mode in it. And you basically just get these tokens that go with the actions that you can take on a turn. It's like you'll use one up to go, okay, I started in this room, let me walk over to this other room. That uses up one token. Use up another token to talk to a character in there. But instead of it being like you're actually talking to them and you're just gleaning the information, you have to do some kind of mini game to get them to fess up to that information. So like, which again, very appropriate for the Wii because there were just a ton of games like that. So like there's one where, you know, you have to use the pointer and keep like your pointer icon is like a pair of eyes, and so it becomes like a staring contest. You have to keep the eyes focused on the suspect until they're like, okay, I'll talk. Or like there's one where if you're in a room and you're finding some kind of evidence in there, there'll be one that's like, oh, here's a safe cracking minigame, or you have to put together this picture, put these images in the right order to, you know, get that information. Pretty like, you know, basic stuff, but it's also like how many things can you do with just a Wii remote and a pointer at a certain point. But they're fun. And what you do with that information, where it gets a little bit different from like a Clue kind of deal, is it's not like, oh, I saw so-and-so there. It'll be like, well, the suspect is, and then they'll describe like, I saw somebody who was taller walking around. And so then you jot that down in your note. And so it's like, okay, now you know it's only like whoever did this thing, it's only the tall characters. Or like, oh, well, I looked like it was a man. And so then you can cross off all. It's sort of like a Guess Who in that kind of sense, I guess, too, in that you're like crossing off all these characteristics until eventually like you get the 4 characteristics of whoever it was, and clearly it only fits one of the characters that's in the building. And so then you go and interrogate them and then inevitably prove. So like then it'll be like, how do you know it's somebody who was this characteristic? And then you prove it, and eventually that's how you win the game. And again, it'd just be very fun to have online because it's totally fine playing against the CPUs. And in fact, you can even do like one player, like you're the only one in the building solving this, but you know, there's only so many times you can do that to where it's not as entertaining without another person actually trying to like beat you at the game. So that would be my bonus. Like if that game had online, I think it would have been a little bit more fun for me. All right. Well, this one ended up a little bit shorter than the last couple.
Yeah, but shorter is never necessarily a bad thing. My last thought that I had is I believe the Steam sale is actually ending today for the spring sale. So I wasn't sure if you had some that were kind of like eyeing at all. Because I know you're not like the biggest Steam person, but figured it's like fitting given that it's like, as of the time of recording, it's going to end in like 2 hours.
Oh, man. You know, I can't remember the last time I opened Steam until literally at the second, since you're prompting me to do this. You know, I have this whole list of all kinds of games that I could want on there, but I just haven't gone for them. Like, I could justify something like Detective Grimoire, but I just haven't gone for that yet. Or even like Castle of Illusion. Like, I mean, oh my goodness, that game came out in 2013.
Oh no! I waited too long.
No, it's out, but it's still on there for sale. But I'm just looking at some of the dates on
not.
here. What's not?
The sale ended 2 minutes ago.
Oh, it's done?
It's done. Oh, no. Well, I guess I'm going to have to wait.
Wow. You heard this live, except not really, because this is pre-recorded. What are the odds of that?
Easily calculable when I realize I don't understand time differences, because as of us ending, it's noon. The sale ended at 10 Pacific, so I will not be getting any, it looks like. Damn it.
Wow. What are the odds of that?
Easily calculable. No,
well, I could...
the one that I was actually kind of stoked, I'm like, oh, cool, this is actually a really good deal, is the latest Like a Dragon game, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is the one that you follow Mijima, who is now an amnesiac who thinks he's a pirate in Hawaii.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know the scope on it. I've only played the first 2 Yakuza games, so I have zero clue what's happening in the main story as of currently. But, like, just the fact that it was, like, 70% off, so I was like, oh, sick, I should pick it up. And then, like, I went to go check out, like, literally as we were talking, and then all of a sudden, just like, no, it's over!
Womp womp.
Bastards.
Well, just gotta wait till it's on sale again. I mean, these happen every, like, season, so it'll come back eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I, gonna be upset. Like, it will come back later. But, like, I'm more mad that I, like, wasn't thinking about, like, because I didn't realize it was today that it was ending. I thought it was, like, tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, I got enough time. And then, like, I went to go check out. It was like, oh, yeah, this is only gonna be, like, $60. And then I get to the cart, it's, like, over 200. I'm like, well, that's not right. Then I looked at the clock. Damn it!
Wah, 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 wah.
That is a higher being telling me to stop spending money right now. So thank you, higher being.
Oh well.
Oh well. I'll worry about that a different day. Like, I have, like, I don't know how your Steam wish list looks, but, like, mine constantly ends up growing. Like, it still hovers around the 200 mark because I have no impulse control. And be like, hey, that looks cool. Hey, that looks cool. Hey, that looks cool.
Mine is at 86 games, and you know what? Since we're on this subject, I want to see... The earliest item I have added on here is from March of 2017.
Like, that you added on the list, or that it released?
That I added it to the list.
Let me see. I gotta find out when mine is.
So, if you wanted any indication to how little I play PC games, that's it right there. But I still, like, occasionally, once in a great while, will add something to the list if I see it, like if I see a post about, like, hey, we're, kickstarting this game, and it's going to be on Steam first. Like, I have this one that's supposed to release later this year, that's going to be basically like Trauma Center. So.
Oh, God. What is this? Please tell me what this is. I need to know.
Oh, God. It gets better, because it's not just Trauma Center, it's Furry Trauma Center.
Furry Trauma Center? There's no shot.
Cutting edge, roots of mutation. Super intense
Lord.
name.
Oh,
but, this is what happens when Atlas, neglects Trauma Center for over 10 years.
I low-key almost bought a copy of, I think it's Under the Knife 2 that I found at a local game store here in, by us. And I somehow ended up not doing it, but I was kind of sitting there, I'm like, there's no way that I just turned down one of the most insane games just because I wanted to save money. I'm like, I seriously was debating. I'm like, I have the money. I could do it right now. According to this, the earliest game that I added on my Steam wish list that I have
also
not
one of the
bought
games with one of the most iconic game songs that you would just hear in the background of, like, YouTube videos. Randomly, that game specifically. I don't know.
So apparently the oldest game on my Steam wish list right now is from 2014.
My internet has gone out. Curses.
And it's Bit Trip presents Runner 2 Future Legend of Rhythm Alien.
Well, we may have lost a little bit of that along the way, because my internet went out for like 30 seconds.
Oh no. Oh well.
Well, it's okay. This is why you send me the audio separately so that we don't lose any of this stuff. So that's an awkward moment.
So, did you hear? I'm assuming you didn't hear, but the oldest one that I have on my Steam wish list is from 2014.
Wow.
And it's
12 years ago.
Bit Trip Presents Runner 2 Future Legend of Rhythm Alien is the oldest game on my wish list that I have not bought yet. And then the next oldest is not until 2017, which I feel like is insane.
Sounds like you've been really holding off on Runner 2.
Yeah, I don't think I have the $15 to spend on it full price.
That was like right before the Wii U eShop went down. That was one of the last ones that I bought on there, which is funny because that was a launch title for the system too. So,
well, I think what also is kind of padding my
I'll
wish
play it
list,
eventually.
Something that's padding my wish list, I feel like, is also that like I put on DLCs and they count those as separate things on the wish list.
I think I may have lost them again. Not necessarily because of my own internet either.
Are we here? Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you here.
Okay.
I think that might be the world's way of trying to tell us to wrap this up.
No, you probably... No, I was just saying that, like, I think my wish list is only padded a little bit more because, like, it counts DLCs as individual, like, things. So I'm thinking that's part of the problem. That's why I'm, like, almost 200 games. But that is it. But we should wrap it up.
That'll do it. That will, in fact, do it. I think I've got the same problem on my Switch wish list, and I don't even put all the DLCs for stuff on there because I basically just put on one to remind myself, hey, you wanted to download that stuff one day.
That's what I do with my Steam wish list too, so I get it. Because like sometimes it's like I'm not gonna buy it on Steam. I'm gonna buy it like some point later and just be like, all right, cool, whatever. I'll get it later at some point on either a different system or whatever. Because like I have Monster Hunter Wilds on here, and I just bought it on PS5. But, like, I don't know if I should buy it on PC because I have friends who play online on PC. So, just a fun time all around here.
That makes it tough.
Yeah.
All right, well, before either of us cut out one more time and make this awkward again, why don't we wrap this show up?
Yeah, let's.
If you enjoyed this episode here, please let us know. You could do that through all kinds of ways. You could subscribe on whichever platform you're on. We would love it. If you did that, you could like the episode. You could leave a voicemail at speakpipe.com/endless conversation loop. Would you believe the voicemail box is still empty?
I can't believe that. Absolutely unfathomable.
It'll happen one day, just through the laws of math and how time works. Anyway, otherwise you could also leave a written comment, and perhaps we may read it out on the show if we think it's worth commenting on. And then, yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. So we will talk to you in the next episode. I am Brandon.
And I am Boom.
And we will talk to you later. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.